Good evening and welcome. It is Friday night. It is 9 p.m. So that means it is time for the latest edition of SportsTalk Live with your host, myself, Nick Burt. It is Friday, July 28th. That calendar is about to flip to August, which means football is right around the corner, which is very exciting for a lot of people in the sports community. Football seems to tie a lot of people together, bring people together. Also, split fan bases and, big rivalries all coming quite soon. Once that calendar flips to August, football is basically here. So we're going to talk a lot of football tonight, both American and international, because obviously the Women's World Cup, I should say, still going on. We're going to look at a few news events coming from NFL training camp because there are a few things coming from that. Few injuries that are going to be quite worrying, I would say. We obviously, like I said, Women's World Cup, but we're going to start off with some somewhat breaking news. I guess it's not really breaking news. It's just the most recent news. Just over an hour and a half ago, I'd say, Michigan State University unveiled a brand new set of uniforms. As we did with the NFL, we will be reacting to these. Obviously, this is my alma mater, but I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to be biased against them. So let's take a look at these. So here we go. All these photos are from Twitter, basically aggregated from the MSU Uniforms Twitter account. So big thanks to everybody that contributed these photos. I didn't get everybody's username, but I know that these all came from the centralized count of MSU uniforms. So you have the home, the away, the alternate jersey, even though they're not calling it an alternate. We'll take a look at most of these with more in-depth look. The home uniform stays green. This is obviously a variation with green pants. Obviously, I feel like they've said, excuse me, that all these pieces are interchangeable. So you may only be seeing, an all green uniform once, or an all white uniform twice, or an all black uniform, once, something like that. So then you have the away uniform, which is white as normal. And then you have the new alternate being debuted. It is black. And we'll get into my opinions when we get to that breakdown. So this is just a closer look at the home uniform. Obviously, the Greek key is become a huge part of these uniforms. That's just the design that's being used on there. They were kind of a bigger part in past uniforms, not as big as this. Obviously, it is now the helmet stripe, as long as the pant stripe, and then the one on the shoulder. The one on the shoulder was somewhat there before. It was much smaller and covered that whole shoulder area. So like you can see that half circle, that used to be all the Greek key, and that was the only Greek key that you saw on the jersey. You can obviously see it around the neckline also. On the helmet photo, you can see it wrapping around there. So, and then there's no really good pictures of the away uniform, the white away, but it is basically the same pattern as this home one, except that the Greek key is in like the green home uniform color, so it makes, or actually, it's in white, so it's still kind of blended out so that you can't really see it, but it's still there. So taking a look at the biggest change for MSU, it is the alternate uniform, a black uniform, which has been called for by a lot of the fan base. You can see that it's black basically. The Greek key in here is that dark green. So it kind of blends in. One of the big things that obviously it's not in this photo, so I'll just bring this one back up really quick. With the alternate uniform, you can notice that there's no word mark on it. It's just like the Spartan logo right at the center point of the collar and a number. That's a major thing that I don't love about this. I don't think it looks good without anything on there. It looks like a plain jersey that you just, picked up off the street without any technical branding on it. So I don't like that part. One of the more interesting parts was, I'll see if I can pull up a photo of it. These uniforms leaked, I believe, on Tuesday. It was Tuesday or Wednesday they leaked on the Rally House website, which, if you don't know, Rally House is it's a sports chain store where they sell all your favorite teams and stuff like that. Well, the home, the away, and the alternate leaked on there. It was on Tuesday. It was the youth jerseys, though, so obviously youth jerseys aren't like a huge indicator of what you're gonna get, but it gives you an idea of what they're going to look like. So as I pull up this photo here, I can show you what this one turned out looking like. So here we go. This is what leaked on Rally House on Tuesday. You can see here, I'll pull up a side-by-side here so that you can see it. So this was what was leaked. It did have a word mark on it. These uniforms don't look that different compared to what we're looking at now. I'll bring these back up again. You can see the Greek key is still on that shoulder in the green. You can see that it's still in the neckline. But this one had Michigan State on it, the word mark. So I don't know if that was maybe a last minute change. I'm not really sure why they would go away from that, if I'm honest. Like I said, I think the jersey kind of just looks plain without a word mark on it. I don't think it looks good. This helmet also, it's got like a weird pattern to it that evokes memories for me of a Ohio State helmet from 2016. They called it the Cannonball helmet, where it was basically this exact helmet except without the logos on it. It was just this black with whatever patterning is in this helmet. That was the exact helmet. And when I saw this, that was the first thing I thought of. So given that, we might as well get into my full thoughts on these uniforms. So obviously brought it back up here. I don't like them, to be honest. I don't. I seem to be in a very minority here. And by very minority, I think I'm the only person on the internet that does not like these, especially the black alternate uniform. I think it looks absolutely terrible. There was a trend in sports uniforms in the mid-90s, early 2000s, where teams would just be adding black into their uniforms and making a black jersey for no reason at all. There's a website, it's called UniWatch, run by Paul Lucas. It's a great website for all your uniform-based news, stuff like that. And he created a term for this. All these teams went BFBS, I believe it is the acronym, black for black's sake, just because they could, basically, and they thought it looked good. I feel like that's what Michigan State's doing here. I feel like it's making a resurgence right now, this BFBS. I don't like it. Black looks good with some teams. If black is one of your colors, it works. But if you're somebody like Michigan State, somebody like Florida State, Florida, I'll go to an extent Ohio State, They're just adding black. Like, I know black is technically a color for Ohio State, but uniform wise, it's not. Florida, black is not one of their colors. Florida State, black is not one of their colors. Miami, black, not one of their colors. Obviously, I just named 3 Florida schools there, but they're just examples I'm coming off top of my head with. UCLA, I think, did a black uniform a few years ago. I don't like this trend. I don't think it looks good. You start to get standardized uniforms. Minnesota, there's one right there. They're doing a black uniform. They have been for the past 3 years. And it seems like they've completely lost their brand identity of maroon and gold, at least with the football team. It looks bad. You start to get these mundane jerseys where everything just starts looking similar. Like, I know a lot of people hated the Michigan State neon jerseys, but at least they were unique. That was the thing with me. Yes, they could have been better, but at least they were unique. You saw like Oregon, or basically just Oregon, coming out with something wacky like that. Michigan State is not Oregon, but at least they tried something. And I think by the end of their run time with this neon jersey, especially last year, they did the neon jersey, which was the green or neon green state across it, but it was still the Michigan State green jersey with that green pant. And then it was a green helmet with a outline of the Spartan helmet in neon. I thought that looked absolutely outstanding, and that was a good use of it. The neon jersey didn't work because of the bright neon pants. With the normal green pants, the uniform worked perfectly, I thought. But this I don't think it looks good. When you're watching a game on TV or in the stands, it's literally going to look like a black and white jersey. You're not going to be able to see the Greek key pattern that's in green. You're not going to be able to see the helmet because the logo, it's going to look like a black helmet because that stuff's in green. I don't think it looks good. I just don't. Like I said, I love this university. They've given great memories. But these they aren't it. The home and away, they're basically the same as the past ones. I mentioned the differencing in the shoulder area, which I don't love. I like the older jerseys better with the smaller key and covering up the whole shoulder area instead of one gigantic key. The biggest complaint I have with those is the helmet stripe. It's the Greek key on as the helmet stripe looks good as a concept. In reality, I don't think it is. It's too wide. I'd say it needs to be more narrow. I liked what Michigan State had, which was I think it was a straight stripe right down the center, and it wasn't large. I thought that looked good. It looked more classy, I'd say. Like it just looked more timeless, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. Overall, for these uniforms, if I had to give it an out of 10, I'll give the home a 7.5. I'll give the away the same 7.5, and then the alternate, I think it's going to be like a 4 or 3.5, somewhere around there. I liked the Rally House youth version better with the Michigan State across the chest. That's just personally me. Obviously, other people have other opinions here, so like I said, I personally don't like these. I think they could have done a lot better here, and they didn't. So with that, so that was Michigan State's new uniforms. I think I literally just went like 15 minutes on those, and I'm shocked by that. But who knew you could go 15 minutes on one uniform set? NFL news. The biggest news right now coming out of training camp, which has just started. Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, went down yesterday with an injury. Had to be carted off the field. Zach Taylor, Bengals coach today, said Joe Burrow could miss several weeks with a calf strain. That's obviously very unspecific. We are 6 weeks away from the season starting, I believe. Will Joe Burrow be back in time for that? That's obviously the main question right now. It'd obviously be a shame if he doesn't play a full season. He's a great quarterback. But, these injuries happen. Like I said, it would really suck if we don't have a full season Joe Burrow, because when he's at his best, he's an absolutely outstanding quarterback. Other news, Jalen Ramsey of the Miami Dolphins underwent knee surgery. It's sounding like he is going to be out until December, given the surgery that he had. So that's a big loss for the Dolphins after acquiring him this offseason. I believe also Sean Payton, new Broncos head coach, I believe it was yesterday. He basically said that former Broncos coach Nathan Hackett was the reason that the Broncos were absolutely terrible last year, which is somewhat true, but he went in kind of harsher. He ended up apologizing for that. He said he regrets, criticizing Hackett and his own GM, George Payton, or even though it's spelled Patton, same thing. Training camp's just getting started, but if you just peek over that calendar, the first preseason games next week, Jets Browns in the Hall of Fame game on Thursday night. American football is closely approaching, because obviously, if you've been watching, the CFL is already a third of their way through the season. So very interesting times going on here in the football world. Given that, we will move on to the other football. We'll move on to the pitch for a quick kick around the pitch before we move into the Women's World Cup, some recaps there. There's reports going around with the Euro 2028 bid, which apparently was between the British Isles, which is England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Ireland. Their combined bid was going up against Turkey. Turkey is now combining with Italy's bid to host in 2032. So now Turkey is pulling out of the 2028 bid, which means that this British Isles bid is going to most likely be unopposed. So it looks like Euro 2028 will be headed to the British Isles. You could say it's the second time in 8 years, technically. Euro 2020, which happened in 2021, had a very heavy London presence, even though it was scattered around Europe. The semifinals and final were in England at Wembley. For England going through to the final, I think they had one game that wasn't in Wembley throughout that tournament, and when it wasn't in Wembley, it was in Rome. They could have played a game in Scotland. I could be wrong there, but like I said, it was a very heavy England presence. It kind of felt like it was a test run for the either 2030 World Cup or 2028 Euro. They decided not to bid for the 2030 World Cup because they said it would be too expensive, and they're obviously going for the Euro, which looks like they're going to get. I think that would be, obviously, it's the only choice, but I think it's a great choice. Obviously, football is huge in the British Isles. They have some great stadiums over there. The really only place I don't know about stadiums is Northern Ireland, because I think their biggest stadium is 20,000 maybe. And it's Windsor Park, I believe. I believe they're building a new stadium for the 2028 Euro if they get it, and it would be like a 30,000 seat stadium. But other than that, there's some great stadiums already there. This is going to be a great tournament if it's held there. Right up there with our 2024 host of Germany, which is going to put on a great tournament, hopefully. Because Germany, just like England, a great footballing house, basically, of football. And really nothing else. There's obviously transfers going on. No really big names on the move as of this moment. Juventus, the Giants in Italy, have been removed from the Europa Conference League for this year for financial wrongdoings. That was an agreement with FIFA, or not FIFA, with UEFA for this year. So they will not be partaking in the Europa Conference League this year. Instead, Fiorentina will be replacing them as they finished 8th in the table. But other than that, there wasn't really a huge, news coming out of that world in the past few days. So we'll move on to Down Under, the Women's World Cup days, technically 8 and 9 passed since the last episode. Some interesting games, to say the least. When we were last live, the Netherlands were up 1-0 on the USA. They end up drawing that game 1-1. The biggest talking points coming out of that game, especially here in the U.S. With soccer fans, is head coach Vlatko Ananovsky and him making one sub the whole game and basically not chasing the game to try to get 3 points. I see their points that they're trying to make. I don't think Vlatko's an outstanding coach. I think he's a little bit over his head, but U.S. soccer likes to employ these types of people, it seems, especially, the rehiring of Greg Berhalter. So I wouldn't be surprised if Vlatko gets an extension, no matter how far the U.S. go in this tournament. And with the way they've been playing and the way the other teams have been playing, it might be quick exit once they hit the knockout round. They technically could be eliminated on their Tuesday morning at 3 a.m., so technically 5 a.m. when the game ends. They are currently top of the table in Group E right now, on 4 points with a +3 goal differential. Netherlands are in second with 4 points with a +1 goal differential. Portugal are in third with 3 points. I don't remember their goal differential. It might be one. It's 1 or 2. I think it might be 1. But, Portugal can win that game against the U.S. and it would be over for the U.S. because that's assuming the Netherlands get business done against Vietnam, which is expected. I wouldn't expect them to lose that game. If they did, that would probably be a large problem for the Netherlands. So U.S. can technically be eliminated on Tuesday, but it's very unlikely. I don't see Portugal pulling off a massive upset. If they do, it would be one of the biggest upsets in Women's World Cup history, and I don't see that happening. The other match in Group E took place on that match day. Portugal beat Vietnam 2-0, their first ever World Cup win, which is also a reason why I don't think they're going to beat the U.S., given that it is still their first World Cup. And then the other game in that match day was Nigeria beating host Australia 3-2 in a just outstanding game of football. It was just something to watch. It was so many good goals in that game. It put Nigeria top of Group B right now which now look poised to make it out of the group. A very tough group. I thought they were going to finish bottom, but there's a lot of good teams in this group, and I think that's really shown out that this tournament is the most competitive ever, and I think it's really showing with the competitiveness of some of these games. So moving on to what was technically yesterday now, with half the games being yesterday and half of them being today, in Australia and New Zealand, they were all yesterday. The early game of the day, South Africa took a 2-0 lead on Argentina, but they end up drawing 2-2. Another, like I said, an outstanding game of football. Watching Argentina come back, that was 2 goals in 5 minutes. Absolutely outstanding. I thought that was the best game of the day. It was just a really entertaining watch. Then in the second game of the day, we had England, the Lionesses. Obviously, I have the England men on my shirt, given the star above the crest, for 1966. They defeat Denmark 1-0 in a game which it could have been better, but it could have been far worse. Lauren James had a stunning goal, which was the only goal on the game. But it is a little bit worrying that both of these games have been 1-0 for England. I obviously predicted them to win this tournament. The James goal was like their first goal in open play in like 7 hours of actual play time, which isn't great. But we'll see. They did lose. I'm completely blanking. Kiera Walsh, I believe is the name, to injury. She had to be stretchered off, most likely an ACL tear, which is absolutely terrible. But I still think England have enough to get it done in this tournament. And then in the final game, China, who went down to 10 women within the first 15 minutes, I believe, with a red card, defeat Haiti 1-0. Felt like this was Haiti's best chance of winning a game, given that, they were basically playing 11 against 10 for most of the game, and they just couldn't capitalize. China put the ball in the back of the net, ended up being the only goal of the game. They're now the only third team in the tournament to win a game despite receiving a red card. So basically pretty good for them. I still don't know if they'll advance out of that group. It's going to be tough for them. But given that there's going to be some other outstanding matches this week, and obviously they all are happening in the overnight hours, so not a ton of people are watching it, but highlights are always the best way to watch like an event like that, where you kind of just want to get the bits and pieces of the stuff that took place in the overnight. So that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed a long uniform critiquing, World Cup talking, injury talking, which nobody likes to talk about injuries, and I completely understand that. And hopefully you enjoyed tonight's video. Obviously the last one of the week. It is Friday. When we have our episode on Monday, it's going to be the last one of the month, because it's the last day of the month, I believe. I'm 99% sure it's the last day of the month. And then we flip to August. Then we're going to start picking up here. Probably a few new shows coming in the pipeline. Hopefully you'll enjoy those. But we will be back on Monday for another edition of Sports Talk Live. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Like I said, if you stumble across this video, like, subscribe. Tell anybody that you know about, if you enjoyed this. Tell them how much you enjoyed me talking about sports for a half hour. So thank you for tuning in to this July 28th edition of Sports Talk Live, and we will see you back here on Monday night.